It can't be. It cannot be. If he wins the election, you won't be on the show anymore. He'll come looking for me. There'll be things that happen that none of us could imagine. That's what happens in that kind of a dictatorship, which is what he says. Let's believe him, take him at his word.
As Trump's victory became evident, mainstream media figures erupted into sensational rhetoric, framing the win in apocalyptic terms. MSNBC's Joy Reid wasted no time portraying Trump's success as a pathway to dictatorship, claiming,
"We've laid out the stakes in this crucial election, where one side stands for freedom while the other meets the textbook definition of fascism, namely a far-right dictatorial regime like Hitler's Germany or Franco's Spain or Mussolini's Italy, but also white-ruled South Africa before Mandela and the black majority took control, or Vladimir Putin's Russia, Viktor Orban's Hungary, or Nicolas Maduro in Venezuela today."
This portrayal of Trump's victory as a march toward authoritarianism resonated across several media platforms, with other voices struggling to justify Kamala's loss. Rather than questioning her policies, MSNBC's Andrea Mitchell leaned heavily on the idea that gender bias was the true culprit, stating,
"Let's talk about gender writ broadly, though. There certainly has historically been, and is there, against her case for election, which will rely heavily on women and the fact that there are more women voters in the United States than men, is that running into headwinds because there are a lot of men who just simply, black and white, men who just simply don't trust a woman to be, chief executive, commander-in-chief. They just don't want to vote for a woman."
But the surprise didn't end there. CNN's Jake Tapper was visibly stunned by the numbers coming in for Harris, revealing that she was underperforming Joe Biden in almost every single state. Tapper's reaction captured the disbelief on the left as he realized the extent of her struggle, saying,
"So you asked, are there any places that the vice president is overperforming Joe Biden in 2020? So we could show you that as well. We just bring that out here. Harris overperforming 2020.
Holy smokes.
There you go. So let this go away and see if there's anything on the east side there.
Literally nothing?
Literally nothing.
Literally not one county?
By 3% or more. At least in the county right now, and so you come in full county there. So there you see, but that's states, yeah. So in counties, in 58 counties.
CNN's data offered a very different take than the Harris campaign might have anticipated, reflecting an overwhelming dissatisfaction with the Biden-Harris administration itself. One commentator acknowledged the clear discontent among voters, noting,
"Nationally, only 7% of voters say they're enthusiastic. 19% say they're satisfied. Look at these numbers. 43% dissatisfied, 29% angry, 72% of the electorate."
At Kamala's campaign headquarters, the mood soured as initial confidence gave way to resignation. NBC's Yamiche Alcindor recounted the atmosphere as supporters began to realize the uphill battle they were facing, describing,
"They really did start off the night thinking 8 p.m., 9 p.m., sounding very optimistic, very confident. The vice president had been saying that she had the momentum. She was telling supporters in rally after rally that she believed she was going to win. And I was picking up on that cautious optimism. But right around 10 o'clock, 10:30, when it was clear that former President Trump was overperforming in places that were critical for him to win, including specifically in North Carolina and Georgia, I started to really sense a real shock and a real anxiety and a real worry from the Harris campaign and Harris aides. And that really just got darker and darker in terms of sort of their mood. At Howard University, people started to really have blank stares. They started to not be celebrating and dancing as they had been at the beginning of the night.
Yet instead of analyzing campaign strategy, some media figures shifted the conversation to racial divides as an explanation for the results. Maxine Waters offered a particularly stark perspective, asserting,
evidently, the majority of basically whites in this country willing to accept a dishonorable human being, someone who has been convicted of 34 felonies, someone who has been openly and brazenly racist, someone who has, talked about his love for Putin and Kim Jong-un and made some statements favorable to Hitler. It doesn't matter.
This is all why you don't like him, but why has America voted for him?
Racism is the basic point. Now, I know that there will be some support from some minorities, but basically we're outnumbered. We're outnumbered. And it's not about whether or not, people are selecting absolutely based on public policy, or whether or not there's an elected official who's willing to do what's in the best interest of all of the people. It is about folks who are willing to accept him no matter how bad he is, no matter how dishonorable he is, no matter how brazen he is in his racist attitudes, etc. That's what it's all about.
As the media scrambled to explain Trump's win, some commentators acknowledged that Americans' frustration ran deeper than just campaign issues. On CNN, early exit polls showed a sharp division between the public's perception and the Democratic campaign's optimism, with one analyst commenting,
I think when you see current voters saying that by a 3-to-1 margin that they are dissatisfied with the country,
or angry, dissatisfied or angry.
Or angry. I got to say, I think that that's with the present conditions in the country. In conventional terms, it would be a miracle that Kamala Harris could win with that kind of headwind, and also with a president.
This commentary highlighted a fundamental issue for Democrats. A significant portion of the country simply wasn't buying into the administration's message or accomplishments. The harsh reality was that voters felt ignored and frustrated with the status quo. Some media personalities turned their frustrations inward, criticizing the Democratic Party's overall approach. A host on the Young Turks voiced his disillusionment bluntly, saying,
I just came off the Young Turks show where I lit into the Democratic Party. Bunch of losers, corporate Democrats. I hate them. They've cost us election after election. They're corrupt. And they lost, it looks like, to a syphilitic clown, total moron, con man, Donald Trump. So if you lose to a buffoon like Donald Trump twice, what does that make you?
While some were ready to admit defeat, others, like Joy Reid, refused to acknowledge any flaws in Kamala's campaign. Reid seemed determined to defend the effort, even labeling it as nearly flawless.
And so what you've seen in the last couple of weeks, if this is an audition for managing a complex organization like the United States, Kamala Harris has passed the audition flawlessly. This has been, in many ways, a perfect campaign, a brief, and she had barely any time to put it together.
On CNN, however, other analysts acknowledged that the dissatisfaction among voters was too large to ignore. One panelist summed up the grim mood, noting,
I got to say, I think that's putting the best spin on it. I think when you see current voters saying that by a 3-to-1 margin that they are dissatisfied with the country,
or angry, dissatisfied or angry.
I got to say, I think that that's with the present conditions in the country.
Maxine Waters continued to cast the result as a racially motivated rejection of progress, framing Trump's win as a backlash against diversity and success among minorities. She insisted,
and that's who has been talking to all campaign about taking the country back. Taking it back from whom? Taking it back from too many minorities who are doing too well, who are succeeding, who are closing the wealth gap. And something has to be done in his estimation. And so that's what it's really all about. It's not about the economy and all that, people would like to basically hide behind. It's about white versus others.
In the end, even traditionally liberal analysts recognized that Kamala faced an uphill battle, with one commentator admitting that a win for her would take a miracle. A CNN analyst stated,
Had it on live right here in my home office. I was watching CNN live at that time. And, Chris Wallace, formerly the Fox News anchor, now he's on CNN, gets on there and he says in real time, looking at this data, he's poring over the numbers, looking down at his paper, and he says, looking at this, I think Kamala Harris will basically need a miracle to win.
As mainstream media attempts to process Trump's victory, Their response showcases a widening disconnect with the American people. Instead of focusing on real issues like the economy, they continue to question the motives of everyday Americans, reducing valid frustrations to racial or gender biases. Their reactions not only reveal frustration, but a refusal to truly understand the public they claim to serve. The question remains, will they continue down this path, or is it time for them to realign with the issues that matter to the majority of voters? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below.